Thank you. My name is Brother Sean, and I'm a member of the Teo community of Interfaith Franciscans. And I want to share with you a heart-to-heart reflection about the word mystic and the words healer. I've been asked many times, but you're a healer. And when I reply, they say, but you are, aren't you? You change people's lives. And I said, no, I'm not a healer. And the look they give you, well, I've wasted my money coming to you. And I said, I have never purported to be a healer. I'm an old satellite dish that God uses to touch lives, but I am not a healer. The word healer refers to God. God is the healer. And yes, I work with the Cosmic Christ and Magdalena. I have trained many students over the last 12 years to work with the Christ Magdalena energy, and they set them free. And that training is underpinned by the ancient esoteric teachings of the Essenes of Mount Sinai, of which Magdalena and Jesus were both Essenes. But today it's interesting when you read various adverts or see various websites, or you get an email from someone inviting you to read their blurb about how great they are as a healer. And I feel sick in my stomach, sadly. And those who say they are a healer really need to come back to their heart, because that's ego language. That's ego talking. I could never dream of saying I'm a healer, because I'm not a healer. If I was, I could heal these rather unpleasant ulcers on my right leg. But divine healing is a gift from the Almighty God to each one of us when we ask for it. And for those like me who are having to wait for that healing, it's because there's a reason for the delay. Maybe I have a little bit more forgiveness to do for harbouring such strong views about brothers and sisters of different faiths who call themselves a healer. But mankind is always searching for answers, and sometimes curiosity kills the cat. I've heard people say, oh, why don't you go and see so-and-so, they're great healers. And I back off immediately. Because if you need healing, all you have to do is to shut your door, go into your sacred space, use your gift of free will, and ask God to come into your heart and touch you. And that's it in a nutshell. Excuse me, but recently I was talking to a friend, and they made me aware that a friend of theirs is now promoting themselves as a healer and a mystic. And I thought, wow, that is an incredible task. I could never say I'm either, because I'm not. I love God very dearly, and I know, excuse me, that through a lot of the CDs I've recorded, God has touched many lives. I haven't. I haven't touched anybody. But by dedicating my life to God for peace and unity, I know that the Cosmic Christ has touched lives, but not as a healer, as one in service to the physician of souls, the Cosmic Christ. The word mystic, we know that Francis of Assisi was an amazing mystic. He had the stigmata, as were many great spiritual men and women, great mystics. But what is a mystic? Well, for me, a mystic is someone who is totally devoid of ego. Totally devoid of ego. They have totally surrendered their heart to God. And they walk in that divine presence and oneness, and nothing else matters. Their whole being, their whole life is driven by this insatiable spiritual intimacy of being held by the beloved. As the case of Teresa of Avila, that beautiful sculpture, that spiritual orgasm she had. Forgive me for using the word orgasm, but that's what it portrays, a spiritual orgasm. If you can say that you have those experiences like Hildegard of Bingen, Teresa of Avila, Catherine of Siena, and many others, then bless you. But Francis of Assisi, whom I follow, he never once used the word mystic. Never once did he use the word mystic, and he was. He touched lives because of his austerity, his total detachment from mind, body, and the world. Those are the tools that a mystic would exemplify in their life. And if you are totally in divine oneness, in the rapture of spiritual oneness, then I praise the God within you. But for an individual to say, I am a mystic and a healer, my heart would want to pray for them, because they've lost their way. Now you might find my words disparaging, and I don't come to you with an agenda. I come to you speaking my truth that's infused by the love of a compassionate God. And I would never dream of belittling anybody. And if I ever have, then I would ask for forgiveness from you. I've been accused of all sorts, a charlatan, a scammer. Oh yes, but I would never knowingly or deliberately go out of my way to pretend to be something I'm not. I wear this habit not to impress you. It's my uniform. It's my witness to my vowed life. I am married to God. I chose that life. I wasn't forced into it. I voluntarily offered my life to God for peace and reconciliation. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet. So what you see is my uniform, like when I was a nurse. I wore a uniform to protect me from infection. But more importantly, it was an identity for patients who needed a nurse, for relatives who were distraught, saddened, and they needed to offload. And though many religious in the Catholic Church today, many nuns and monks have abandoned their habit, which is very tragic, because the world today needs witness, but not the sort of witness from individuals who are so full of their own pomposity, ego, and spreading the word that they are a healer and a mystic. They are not words that one should really use. And if you were a mystic and a healer, you would never dream of using such words, because it would violate your own personal integrity with God. It would challenge your gift of humility to God. and it would take you from your heart. This is a tool of the Antichrist to inspire others to follow what their head is telling them. And what they're doing basically is they're courting adulation from disciples. They're setting themselves up to be knocked off their pedestal. How do I know that? I just know it. I used to take part in many mind, body, spirit events starting off in my business 12 years ago. And I met some amazing people. And they were my teacher too. But I met very vulnerable people. Vulnerable people who would take out a second mortgage to get inner peace. I met one beautiful woman at an evening seminar. It was just a taster. I was invited by a dear friend to come and talk to a group of beautiful souls who had lost their loved ones, and they were distraught, naturally. But it was a gift of myself to them, and we just did a simple meditation inviting our guardian angel to come to us. It didn't last very long. And I went round and blessed them with the blessed oils. And you know what really made me cry? One beautiful lady who just lost her husband 8 months ago. They were inseparable. They were soulmates. They were like brother and sister. They were so close. And he died so young. And what is so sad, she couldn't let him go, which does delay the healing process. I know that from my years working as a psychiatric and a general trained nurse. Bereavement really you should begin to come to terms with. You never get over the death of a loved one, but you're given the strength to come to terms with it. This poor soul shared with me that she'd spent £12,000, and everybody in the group went, "What?" on psychic chat lines, ringing psychics, clairvoyants, mediums, going to see them, and they were all giving her a different story. And in the end, she was totally crushed, bereft. She was going through a living hell. And I just sat with her, held her hand, and I just asked the Christ to touch her. That's what my heart guided me to do. And she broke down crying. And I stood back, and people wanted to put their arms around her, and I just said, "No, don't. Don't come near her to touch her, because she needs to release this." And it's a natural instinct, isn't it, to put your arms around someone you love who's hurting. But it blocks the healing process, and the tears were her release. And during the coffee, she was talking to her friends, and one of them said, "Tell Brother Sean, tell him. And I said, "Oh, tell me what, pet?" She said, "You know I spent £12,000 in the last 8 months. I was obsessed to know whether my husband was safe on the other side." And that meditation, he came to me, was Christ, and he spoke to my heart. And I had a tear in my eye. And you've charged nothing. And that's the ministry that God calls you to with me, to surrender our heart. Not many can do that because it takes courage today, because of the fear aspect of what people will think of you. Well, tough titty. I don't care what people think of me anymore, because I've allowed so many people into my space who've really hurt me, who've cheated on me, who've deceived me. They come across as being an interesting friend, loyal support. "Oh, Brother Sean, you can't leave the Teo community. You can't resign your position. You are the community. We need you." False. They were false prophets, because behind my back they were scheming, complaining, arguing. But you know, if you come across anyone who says they're a healer or a mystic, I ask you to test the water. Douse it. And you will know if they're a healer, because the first word that will not come from their mouths or in their publicity, I'm a healer. Because they're not a healer. They're a conduit, a vessel that God chooses to use, but he only uses vessels who are vessels of prayer, discipline and fasting. So if you are on the spiritual path and you love supporting other people and you love being there for others to administer God's healing touch, brilliant. But for the Christ, the God, to touch another, you yourself must be grounded, protected, a person of deep prayer, on a spiritual path where there is discipline in your life and where you fast. Yes, dirty word, fast. For without those gifts, those tools that you bring into the healing process for God to touch another, then all you will do is you receive the healing. And I've seen so many Reiki therapists, masters, who are so broken and wounded and still on the run from themselves. They refuse to heal their inner child issues. But yet clients pay them money for them to do a Reiki treatment. And the poor client gets nothing. And the therapist gets it all. Is that not scandalous? And that's what's happening today. So many people are vulnerable for help. And I have a duty of care first to myself, to my relationship with God, and then to those who come seeking my help. And the beautiful therapy that Christ gave to my heart with Magdalena, anointing the feet of others. He does that. Magdalena brings the Christ in. I'm just the conduit, the vessel, the instrument. A surgeon cannot perform a gallbladder operation without the dirty nurse giving him the instruments to do all the... He needs the anaesthetist. So it is with one who's involved in the healing ministry. We cannot say we are the healer and that we perform. And anyone who does, I back off because they're a charlatan. They're a false prophet that Christ warned us about. False prophets in sheep's clothing. Be on your guard. Try not to wear your vulnerability on your sleeve. First, ask your God to come and help you. Or ask God to bring someone into your life who's aligned with God's truth and who works with God's love. That will happen. That will happen, trust me. And have no fear. And if you are genuine, you will work behind the scenes, not on centre stage like a lot of the clairvoyants, where they have a huge audience, or Great Aunt Sally's coming through. I am not being disparaging to anyone with that gift, but it's not their gift, it's God's gift. And today so many people draw others to themselves because they're insecure, they're lonely, they're on the run. They refuse to self-heal. They refuse to face their demons. They refuse to allow God to touch them. I've seen it in our community with members who come, who release so much, and then they go back to their old ways, and then they start getting nasty by spreading all sorts of maliciousness, because the members of the community become a mirror of grace. And when they look at that mirror, they see an image of themselves reflected to seek healing from God. But rather than admit that, embrace that, and have it healed, they immediately attack the messenger, as one of my brothers and sister-in-laws have done to me, by putting me on the internet as a scammer, as an evil character. My name is mud on the internet. If you type in Sean Bradley, Brother Sean Bradley, you will read what my brother has done. And you know what? I love him. I do love him. I'm sad he's done it, but I love him. I forgive him, but I don't like him. I don't like him, and I don't like what he does, for he doesn't represent the truth of God. He's obviously been influenced by a deceitful entity. So, mystic, healer are two gifts that God gives to all of us. And when they are given in love, we do not tell the world that's what we are. We withhold that information because it's personalized. And besides, we are not allowed by God to promote it. Only the Spirit of God can do that. If those who are watching this video resonate with what I've said and are challenged by what I've said, can I just conclude by saying, I come to you in love, and I come not with a judgment or an agenda, but I come speaking God's truth. Be still and know that you are loved as a child of God. Surrender your heart. And if you need healing, ask. If you need direction, ask. If you need loving support, contact us. We run a free healing service on live stream on the internet 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday. We go live every night at midnight despite being tired and knackered, for God, the Christ, to speak through us. I don't profess to be an academic. I don't profess to be an intellectual. I don't profess to be an expert in anything. All I am is someone in service to God who loves God more than I love life. And whatever God asks my heart to do, I do it. I don't question it. Even if it makes me enemies, I honor my truth. I follow that truth because that truth is my God. Please take care of you. Think of the mantra, I am a child of God. I am loved not for what I do or what I say, but for who I am, a beloved of God. Namaste. Shalom. Inshallah Paxet Bonum. Om Shanti. Solo de Caritas. Salakum Alaikum. Peace. 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 Embrace your peace. Go now.